right. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for joining us today for this fantastic fireside chat or jungle chat, as we can see in some of those, or white background chat. So either way, my name is Frank Gurney. I am the channel director at SecurityStudio. And we have a lot of really fun stuff we're going to be doing today. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items. So you guys should see on your panel there, you have a raise hand button. And if you can hear me just fine and you see our faces, our mugs, if you could just click a hand raise, that'll let me know that you're hearing and seeing us just fine out there. Love to see the candy. I love it. And Stacy, are we seeing any hand raises out there? So,
yep, we're good.
all right, good to
Lots
go.
of hand raises.
Perfect. Love it. All right. And then secondary to that, you guys do have a questions tab on your panel. We will be answering some questions at the end if there is time. So feel free as we're going through this fireside chat, if you come up with any questions that you want to hear from our panelists here, just feel free to type them in there. And as we get some time, we'll do that. Or, you know, if we get past time and we're unable to answer them on this, we can always, you know, shoot you guys some emails and that sort of thing. So we'd love to do that. But
sorry, my audio dropped out when you said shoot you guys. What was after that?
Bang, bang.
That's right. Absolutely. And again, thank you for joining us. So as I mentioned, my name is Frank Gurney, but I do have a couple knuckleheads here with me. So with that, I'd like to introduce them. So first and foremost, I have Michael Kennedy on the line, also known as Kennedy. And so Michael Kennedy is recognized as a cybersecurity industry trailblazer. He's a founder of Ostra Cybersecurity. It's a multi-layered, fully managed security service. Ostra's solution combines Fortune 100 caliber tools, tech, and talent to ensure threats are not only detected and hunted, but also fully remediated for business of all sizes. Previously, Kennedy led, built, and scaled security platforms for Fortune 5 companies before setting out on a mission to protect SMBs. Kennedy, good to see you. How are you doing today?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Frank.
Also on the line, we have Evan Francen. So if you don't know who Evan Francen is, he is the CEO of SecurityStudio. He's the co-founder and CEO of FR Secure as well. He's an expert level security consultant, which is an expert level security consulting company. And Evan has over 30 years. Only don't look that old to me, Evan, but a practical experience in information security and is a well-known thought leader and specializes in the industry. He founded SecurityStudio in 2017 and co-created the software's key capabilities, including the S2 score. Evan is continually working on the mission of fixing a broken information security industry and advising high-profile cybersecurity breaches to developing the first ever vCISO training program. So with all that, he is also an author of a very cool book called Unsecurity. And with that, how are you doing, Evan?
Good to see you. Yeah, you can just call me security guy. I'm cool with that.
Security guy. Very, very cool. So with that, we're going to get started.
Mike, do you have a pipe right now?
No, it's my glasses.
Oh,
Frank
okay.
wanted me
I thought
to-
you were
Frank
smoking a
wanted
pipe.
me-
I'm like, man, you went all out, brother.
Yeah, see, yeah, we did discuss that. We thought the pipe would be a nice touch, you know, next to the fire. But
Yeah, this fire is going to get hot, so we better get this going and get it over with, because no marketing's idea around a fireside chat, but it's already like 75, 80 degrees here. So it's going to
Absolutely.
get
Can you
hot.
imagine how much we were talking about this fireside chat thing? And so I took a lighter and I was like, I could start a fire too, but this
Yeah,
is my wife's garden. So I think that wouldn't
No, that's
go well.
smart. No.
No.
well, excellent, guys. So we really wanted to create this around being more of a video podcast style, just so you guys know what the format's like. No slides, no no craziness here. We're just gonna be three dudes talking, and really it's about you guys today. So with that, you know, I wanted to start you guys with kind of a year in review. I mean, I know 2023 is just about at an end here. We're all kind of getting ready for the holiday season. And there's been a lot that's been going on out there as far as security is concerned. You know, there's been a number of high profile breaches this year. I mean, a few that affected me personally, the MGM breach, 23andMe, LastPass. There's been a ton of them. And a lot of these large companies have large budgets. You know, we hear a lot from our MSP and IT partners that their customers think it's never going to happen to them, right? And I'm just wondering what you guys are thinking about. One, how do MSPs or IT companies or anybody deal with that mentality of, you know, it's not going to happen to me? And, you know, what do you think about all these breaches as well? Let's start with Kennedy. What do you think?
So from an MSP standpoint, the first thing that comes to my mind always is SolarWinds, and how, you know, in that supply chain as an MSP, how do you ensure that you're being protected, and then protecting your customers, you know, because that's the end goal, is to protect those customers. And are you protecting yourself and providing the right tools to protect those customers? So I really think that's created a lot of change in the thinking, that, you know, people are looking at the supply chain differently. The other side of it too is, like, from that customer standpoint, you get a lot of that apathy in clients and customers that, oh, we don't have any data, it's not going to happen to me. But you see, you know, business email compromise is just crazy right now. And we're seeing more and more of these, like, high profile companies being attacked and targeted. But there are probably 5 times to 10 times that of these small businesses that don't have to report, that are having breaches or having to pay and getting ransom. So I don't know if there's a right answer of trying to convey that message, but it comes back to, like, what we always talk about is the education. We need to educate them. We need to bring them into the place. We don't want to take them all the way to the paranoia, like where I live, but we want to, you know, bring them up closer to that and that awareness side of things. So, and I think, you know, I think later we'll maybe talk about it too, of, like, risk assessments and, you know, bringing it to a customer's attention and being honest about it, and authentic about, here's the products, here's the solutions you have, this is what you need to implement, and otherwise it's out of our hands. So
yeah, having that conversation with the customer in some way, shape, or form, and how to start that obviously is a big one. But at the same time, I think you made a good point there of, like, you know, we see all these news stories. We heard about those big breaches that I just mentioned, including SolarWinds that you said hit the MSP world. But at the same time, you don't hear about the small businesses, right? I mean, that's the thousands that are getting hit every day, that are having issues. Those are the ones that, even though they're not hearing about it, it's a huge issue for them. They just don't realize it, right? And so I totally get that. And Evan, any thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, well, I mean, sadly, 2023, it's the same old, you know what I mean? It's, for people that have been in this industry for a while, it's, you know, we've made progress. You know, I hate to be negative all the time, because I think that's one of the things that ends up, you know, shooting ourselves in the foot, is we're trying to help people. Positives, you know, I think it's front and center more. We're starting to see, I think, more of a move towards accountability. We still have a long ways to go. The bad things are, you know, I think not enough people still take it seriously. There's a lot of ignorance still, you know, in our industry, even amongst our own clan. You know, you talk about, you know, basic fundamental things. You talked about the SolarWinds breach. You know, I grew up early in my career. I was a network guy. You know, I was a big Cisco, you know, and I can't ever imagine putting in a firewall without using it properly, right? I mean, a firewall, it's not just ingress, right? It's egress. That's the reason why we've got inbound and outbound rules on firewalls. And so and life was simpler then, right? I mean, it was easier for me to control traffic flows on a network because I didn't have so many traffic flows, right? But, you know, so until we get the fundamentals, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. You can continue. You almost keep, it's like you keep pushing the ball further and further away from you, right? The more and more technology you continue to adopt without using it properly. And if you don't know how to use it properly, that's fine. We all start there,
Right.
but you need to learn how to use it properly. Otherwise, people suffer for it. And today, with that lack of accountability, I'm not sure too many people feel the pain. It's more of a shared pain, right? If I have a breach, I got to send a letter, but I get so many damn letters anyway. Nobody really is going to hold you accountable
Yeah.
for it. Well, those things will continue to just kind of mass up, and there's going to be a day when we're all going to have to pay for it, or
Yeah.
you're going to have to pay for it, yourself. So we're trying to get out ahead of that, but until people slow down a little bit, I think we're still going to be chasing.
Yeah, that's a good point, Evan. And one of the other things that came to mind while you're talking about that is that I know you've been really close and had a lot of information around kind of government compliances and things that they're building in the government to help, right? Help, this whole cybersecurity threat thing. And are you hearing about things that are going to drive compliancy or drive specific things that small businesses are going to have to do, no matter what? Is that coming down the pipe?
Yeah, I mean, it will. I mean,
Yeah.
either you choose to do it or you get forced to do it. And one of them is a hell of a lot less painful,
Mhm.
right? I like to use the analogy of and one of them is checking the box, which really doesn't do it anyway, right? You've got the letter of the law and the intent of the law. It was like, I've raised 5 kids and they all lived. I think they're all still alive. And it was a difference between me telling them to clean the room and them actually wanting to clean the room.
Yeah.
One was actually clean. The other one wasn't, right? You picked up stuff, but I look under your bed or, look in the closet somewhere. So it's the same kind of just human nature. I think until people actually want to do this, and they won't want to do this unless they see an advantage to it or there's pain associated with it. And right now we're still kind of in this gray area where I don't see the advantage.
Yeah.
Or I don't feel the
Yeah.
pain.
And I think in the MSP world, and as more MSPs start to go down the cyber road, just like, their managed service offerings that they had for so long, they built out their stack of services that was non-negotiable. It's part of a managed service agreement is to have these pieces in place. And I think that's what we're going to start to see as well, as like every customer of a managed service provider or any other cybersecurity consultant or anyone has to have these pieces in place in order for them to be able to provide service to them. And I think that's a way you kind of get a handle on these things, if that makes sense.
What I'd love to
Yeah.
see us to sell more, like I would be thinking the same thing. If you came to me as an MSP and you wanted to sell me security services, or you wanted to do an assessment of my business, whatever, if I don't see the advantage in it, if I don't see what's in it for me, then I'm not going to do it. I've got
Yeah.
other stuff to do. I've got to grow my business. I've got, bottom line I've got to deal with. So us as security people, it'd be a lot better for us to approach that way. What's in it for you? Well, what's in it for you is a more efficient business. What's in it for you is, all chances are pretty good we're going to be able to remove a whole bunch of software that you're paying for that you're not actually using. That'll improve your bottom line. So taking that approach as opposed to kind of the fear tactics, because everybody, they're deaf to it. I
Yeah.
would be too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they have the insurance that they think they have. And, yeah. You're
we
right
do.
though. We have to get some normalization in it, and we have to. Yeah, I mean, and you kind of touched on it too. We have to share the same language as when we talk about this, and not go in with the fear mongering and predatory sales tactics towards people. It's the education. It's showing them where the ROI and the importance of doing this to the business. Like you always talk about it too, Evan, about knowing, understanding their business so that you can talk to them in their business language versus coming in and saying you need a security tool, because you do.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then,
Well,
that you speak, well, sorry, Evan, to the standardization. I think that was the normalization, right? That you're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
standardizing the practice around the things that are doing. And this, just as I was saying, really is the way that managed service providers built their businesses, because it was, you had an RMM tool, you had a PSA, you had a
Yep.
backup and disaster recovery device, you had antivirus tool, you know, you had all these things that
Yep.
you had in there, and it was a standard way of doing business. So it's got to go that route as well. Sorry, go ahead, Evan.
No, I was just agreeing with you guys. Actually, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, no worries. What do you guys think that 2024 is going to look like? Do you guys think that it's just more of the same? Do you think with all this AI stuff, that's going to be something? Skynet, is that coming in? I don't know. You know, what do you think?
No, not yet. I don't think we're ready. I think maybe about 3 years we'll have Skynet.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be continuation of the same.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge desire for an easy button, and really just you know, when you talk about AI, really you kind of look at the ease and the sophistication of the attacks. They're shifting. I mean, you can really write a very telling email or business email compare phishing or vishing with like a chat GPT and shoot it out. So I think there's going to be, it's easier to have access for people to do those attacks. But I think, you know, that there's also a lot of businesses and MSPs that we're kind of talking to are really looking for more of that kind of that easy, you know, ability to reduce the noise or reduce what they're kind of looking at. You know, we're still I don't know. I there's a lot of times too, I think about, we're still trying to find our way after COVID and how to interact with people, and how we kind of had that shift in that mentality. And now we're virtual, we're not virtual, remote users, not remote users, cloud versus not cloud. And there's this kind of, we're in this like this I don't know, quagmire of where are we going, or what are we doing? But what I see a lot of is that people are looking for something. It's like this easy, and I don't know if that's part of it. You know, we really some influx in what the ease of grocery shopping, the ease, and I want something, I just click a button and then I have it delivered here.
Yeah,
and I think go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Evan, you know, this is funny because it fits right into kind of what we talk about a lot. But I feel like in cybersecurity in general, you know, if you're doing consulting and you're doing services, there just isn't an easy button. And even though every vendor out there wants to build that, the reality is in risk and in, you know, figuring all this stuff out, you can't throw something on the network and it's going to do it, right?
No.
I mean, you have to get your feet dirty. And I think one of the things I learned from you, Evan, a while back is, you know, we sell hard work a lot of times. What are your thoughts around this concept of an easy button around cyber risk and cyber in general?
Well, I mean, I think longer term, I think for businesses that actually want to be around, you know, long term, you know, you got to think beyond 1 year anyway. I would want to put my business in a position to have competitive advantage, right, in the marketplace. When I look at the way I can integrate information security into my business and actually enable my mission, make more money, top line and bottom line, ideally you'd see a lot more planning, because there's going to be a day when the people that didn't plan for this are the ones that are going to be, not to use scare tactics, but it's logic.
Yeah.
It's just logic. And so when the compliance comes, you can't wait for the government on anything. So waiting for the government to tell you what to do or to provide services for you, good luck with that. I mean, it's again, it's not going to provide you the competitive advantage. So in 2024, I think you're going to see a lot more of this, us trying to find ourselves out thing. And I think there are people in our industry that already know the answers, but you've got other powerful people in our industry that kind of don't want the answers to be known.
Right.
Right. I mean, if I was going to, you can't do information, for instance, I can't do information security without doing a risk assessment, period. Now, the question is, you can do a crappy risk assessment or a good risk assessment. That's up to you. the right type of risk assessment would be one that would be actionable, that would give me something to do afterwards to improve or manage my risk. It would put risk into perspective. The easiest people to take advantage of from an attacker's point of view, whether you're a red teamer or a blue teamer, is to take advantage of ignorance. You know, the people that aren't paying attention are the easiest targets.
Mhm.
You know, and I think there'll be a time when the people that are doing it right will get tired of paying for the people that aren't doing it right. You know, why should I have to pay more in insurance rates? Why should I have to pay more bank fees when I'm responsible with the technology I'm using? My account didn't get hacked. So why am I
Yeah.
paying for the people whose accounts did get hacked?
It's interesting you brought up insurance too, because I feel like that's another area where we're already seeing these huge changes, right? In the way that the insurance companies kind of
And that's the
deal
frustrating
with
part.
cyber.
We told them this. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the frustrating, your 9-question questionnaire is not going to be enough to underwrite
Checking
insurance,
the,
period.
you're checking the box. Yeah.
Right.
And so that mentality, and again, people aren't going to change unless they see an advantage in it for them or they feel the pain from it. There's a great question here from an anonymous attendee. Do we think CISOs facing jail time will have no impact? What about the SEC reporting requirements? And I wanted to address that because the one who's ultimately responsible for information security in any organization isn't the CISO. It's not the CISO. The one who's ultimately responsible for information security at any organization is who's ever the top of the list. So the CEO, the board, if there is a board, but it's not the CISO. So I think what's going to happen with the CISO piece is who the hell wants to be a CISO?
Right.
I'm not going to be a CISO, and if you want me to be ultimately responsible for information security, then give me the checkbook.
Right.
But you won't give me the checkbook. So, you know, that's a catch-22. The SEC thing, it'll be like any other compliance. We had HIPAA, did the same thing. GLBA did the same thing. I mean, on and on. We just keep
GDPR,
repeating the same mistake. So what will happen with the SEC is people will do the minimum necessary to get compliant and then call themselves good. But until you hold a board, if you hold a board of directors responsible for information security at a public company, you're going to see some changes.
Yeah. The problem with all of that you're saying though, just meeting compliance is you're not doing the best security for your company at that point, right?
No,
So,
you're checking the box. And when something does happen, and what the problem is you've kind of brushed it under the rug already. You've not done the security assessment. You're not aware. You're not implementing the plans against those things. Yeah. And when I
It'd
was
be
saying
nice in our
easy
industry
button,
too, if we had if you don't do these 3 things, whatever those 3 things are, make 2, maybe 1. If you don't do this one thing, you're negligent. And just pick
Yeah.
one thing. We don't
Right.
have to argue about it in our industry about, well, it should be this, it should be that. Just pick one. Who cares? As long as
Asset
it's moving the ball
inventory,
forward,
asset inventory.
I could get on board with that one.
Yeah.
All
When
right,
I was
boys,
saying
well,
easy,
go
well,
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say, when I was saying easy button, I wasn't referring to like an easy button, I got security, or an easy button. It's what I think, what I feel like is, and you kind of touched on it, is the industry has been sold a specific product and a specific, like, this will take care of it. No more worries. And what I think MSPs and clients in the industry is looking at is like that's a false narrative. That
Yeah.
it wasn't. Now I'm still getting all these alerts that I got to go address you. I thought you were taking care of the alerts. I thought you were doing the remediations. I still had a breach, but I have you, and I've been paying you, tens of thousands of dollars. And so that's what I think people are looking at for, is they want to reduce that. What they thought they got, that they're really, I would say 24, that will become more of a focus for organizations.
Yeah, it is interesting
Well,
that you can't just throw money at something and I'm protected, right? It doesn't work
Right.
that way.
Well, that's
This
what I was saying
point.
about the ignorance, right? Because it's not
Yeah.
just your traditional bad guys that are the ones taking it that take advantage of it. We have people in our industry, lots of them, lots of the biggest names in our industry, who are taking advantage of people by selling them products they don't need, that don't work, that don't solve a problem,
Right.
and they're making millions, billions of dollars from it. And I'm not going to mention the name. I would love to mention names. Maybe I'll do that in a different podcast.
Yeah.
But one that comes to mind, their tagline is to end cyber risk. What? You can't.
No.
That's impossible. So what I
Right.
would love to see is the FTC has,
Oh
laws.
yeah.
We have laws against this, this false advertising. Truth in advertising is a thing. I would love to see us enforce that, but I think the government itself, I think, is ignorant enough outside of a few people to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
We
good
gotta
thoughts,
move on.
the
guys.
part that pisses
Yeah.
me off probably
Frank.
more than anything is when somebody in our industry who comes off as somebody who you can trust sells you something that you don't need.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
That's
Frank,
a
we
big-
better get moving before he starts
Yeah,
calling the
yeah. So
FTC
no,
again.
good-
We
no,
don't
I
want
was
him
gonna
on.
say great.
Is my face turning
there.
red now?
Well, we just
Great banter there.
last call
So
we did, you picked up the phone and started calling the FTC to yell at him. So
yeah,
I just,
that
I
was
don't- I just
that's part of our last call, wasn't it?
I do live
So
in
great.
Mexico
Yeah,
now.
guys. Our next
I have to
subject
extradite.
really, we wanted to jump into kind of circles of trust, mental health a little bit. So with that, we know that MSPs have a ton of technical knowledge. A lot want to be seen as the expert. Cybersecurity is pretty new for most of them. So what advice would you guys have for them to navigate those feelings of kind of stress or anxiety or inadequacy of not always having all the answers when it comes to cyber, because it is new, as they enter kind of this new business side of business for, that is all new to a lot of them. Any thoughts of how to deal with that?
I think there's three things that make an MSP really successful. And I think any consulting company, it's trust, credibility, and likability. So I think as an MSP, if you focus on those three things in whatever service you're going to provide. So if you don't know the answer to something information
Yeah.
security related, it's okay to say that. You're not necessarily paid to know all the answers. You're paid to provide all the answers. So relying on a partner, Mike's, I'll give you Mike's phone number. I'll put it in the chat. You can call Mike anytime. He'll help you. I
Mhm.
won't because I don't want to. No, I'm kidding. But
Yeah, I was gonna say,
So-
I know you will actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
yeah,
We
But,
might wanna correct that.
Even if
But
your
the-
wife doesn't want you to, you will.
Right. The truth is I'm 30 some odd years in this industry. I don't
Yeah.
have all the answers. I still have to go to people and find out what this is and how this works. But what I won't do is, and that's where I think imposter syndrome comes in, is when you try to act like you're somebody that you're not.
Correct.
You
Authenticity.
should,
Yeah.
you should feel uncomfortable doing that because you're probably doing a disservice to your customer.
Right.
Right. So playing in that gap, I see Lyle asked a question. I think some MSPs are scared to work with InfoSec companies to do proper risk assessments for their clients. The MSP is too focused on the stack that they are afraid to do what the risk assessment will find.
Mhm.
And we've run into this. This is nothing new. We've run into this, forever because we treat it like it's an IT issue. Right. This is not an IT issue. This is a great opportunity for the MSP. Even if you find that there are some tech things that you didn't install correctly, that maybe they didn't need them, right? You can continue down the path of just ignorance and bullshit, or you can actually address it at some point. And this is a great opportunity for you to elevate it to where it actually belongs, which is with the board, which is with the CEO. So anything you find that looks bad at the organization, it's actually a reflection of them. It's not a reflection of you. So
Yeah.
I want to point that out because I think a lot of people struggle with that. Well, what if I find that I did crap wrong forever? Well, you learn from it and, let's adjust.
I'll admit something here. I used to when I had a little MSP shop myself, I used to configure Windows machines, and I would go in and I would disable updates, Microsoft updates for people because you don't need that shit. And then it'll suck up your bandwidth and cause problems with your computer and then create more phone calls for me. I mean, it was 20 years ago I was doing it, but now I would go if it had been more recent, I would go back to all of those people and talk to them about it. You touched on and then somebody mentioned transparency in the question too, the authenticity. To have authenticity, you have to know yourself. You have to be honest with yourself to be able to be honest and be authentic with other people. And that, everything you said around, if you don't know, it's okay not to know. it's okay not to, it's okay to surround yourself with people that are smarter in the industry, and so um, that and I didn't think about it. And it's interesting from the imposter syndrome too. Why we get sucked into that is because we're trying to compare our insides to other people's outsides. Because I look outside and I see something or someone or an MSP or a security vendor, and I'm looking at what I internally, and so having that authenticity, knowing that I don't know it all, and then having friends and people like you guys to talk to about it. So that is the number one.
That makes a ton of sense, Kennedy, and it reminds me, Evan, of a couple conversations you and I have had where you've been out at events or shows, and there's a bunch of guys who are just full of themselves, right? Who know everything, right? And just being in those situations and feeling like that inadequacy, like maybe you don't know as much as those guys do, but do they really? At the end of the day, they're just posturing, right? I mean, they're just they're just trying to show off in front of everybody else. So I don't think
we do a lot of posturing, and I think,
yeah,
and it's never a question of intelligence either. I think I've had many CEOs over the years, who say they feel stupid, or I'm asking a stupid question. It's like, this isn't an intelligence thing. It's just a learning thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of the things that I've learned over the years have nothing to do with how smart I am. They just happen to be things I was part of. I was there. I got my ass kicked. It hurt. You know what I mean? And I want to save other people from going through that same thing, right? So the same will happen with MSPs. When you're first starting out anything, it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel very mechanical. You're going to have to, what I tell a lot of people who start in this industry is, where you lack credibility, borrow somebody else's.
Yeah.
So an example that would be, like maybe I've never done an assessment before, or I've never been a vCISO before. And so I'm going to take what I learned from somebody who's been a vCISO for many years, and I'm going to say what they say and do what they say, not trying to be them, but to borrow their credibility. And so then when I get challenged, which is the part I think where a lot of us feel threatened, really uncomfortable, because what happens if a customer asks me, well, why did you ask me that question? Why is this so important? That's when you can borrow credibility. Well, because, according to this thing that I read from Mike Kennedy, it said these reasons are why it's important. Right?
Yeah.
So that's how you get away with, not having that experience, steal somebody else's experience.
Yeah, it's interesting that we see, like, I see this a ton on the kind of partner side of things. Like, you might get an MSP or IT company who's really interested in doing all this stuff and like going down this path, but then they don't have their employee buy-in, and that can be an issue. And you guys are both business owners, so this wasn't on our list of things to talk about, but I think it's important because you are both business owners. You both understand this. Like, you guys go to things and you get excited and you find something that you think will really help your business and help you grow in the future. How do you guys get that buy-in from your employees, or even make that decision? Hey, you're going to go down this path, right? Is that something you guys want to talk about a little bit?
Yeah, berating them until they accept doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Physical threats.
No, physical threats. For me, I'm a very collaborative person, and I'm an overthinker. I think about thinking, and so when I see that type of stuff, or I hear those commentary, then for me, it's bringing it back to the organization and saying, hey, what do you guys think about this? Look at this product, and then challenge and if they don't, then challenging them, why aren't they looking at that product? And validating against, or a show to go to, or a marketing exercise, or anything along those lines of how do we challenge and work together as an organization to propel us forward? Because I'm you can't really see it, but there's a framed squirrel picture back there that my aunt gave me, because squirrel and shiny objects are horrible for me. And so I'll have a new shiny object every afternoon, and so I have to rely on the people that I work with to ensure that we validate that and we go through it, and getting that buy-in is really important.
But also
So
helping them to see that vision of where you see
yeah,
the company going next, right? Because I think
yep,
sometimes we can throw things at employees and people and say, hey, here we want this done, but without giving them that vision of, look, here's where we're taking the business over time.
context behind it.
How
Yeah.
that's going to really make it happen might be important. Any thoughts there, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, some people are good leaders, some people aren't, I think it comes, there's a couple things I think are really important. One is, do your employees trust you? Do they think that you're credible?
Mm.
You're not an asshole. So it's the trust, credibility, and likability piece that still applies.
Authenticity, authentic. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, everybody, everywhere is always, whether it's out in front of your mentality or it's subconscious, everybody's always wondering what's in it for me.
Yeah.
So being able to paint the picture of how this decision benefits you, right? It benefits us corporately, but you specifically, this is how it benefits. And I think the more you can prove those things out, the more you kind of add to your credibility bank account.
Yeah.
There are times when you do have to spend your political capital, where you just need to overrule something for whatever reason. But I think always being cognizant of how much political capital I have in my account and, trying to add to that.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Well, both of you guys are really huge on education and educating folks, and it shows in Ostra and SecurityStudio's onboarding of new partners. It's really about taking them through a path of education to get them up to speed and to a whole nother level, really, at the end of the day, of even becoming VCSOs for our side, and you guys take them through a huge education path on the Ostra side. Where does that passion come from for you guys? I mean, what's the idea or thought or mindset around educating?
I'd rather you do the work than me.
I was going to say, I mean, I hate saying this, but selfishly, from an operational standpoint, then in a process and communication, all of that, it comes back to the more that we communicate, the more that we educate, the more that with the time that we spend with you, going through what we do, what you do, how we develop synergies together, maintains the healthiness of our relationship. And operationally, long term, it reduces all of that back and forth noise. We're so there's that piece of it, but then also the other side of it is too that what we kind of talked a little bit earlier about of getting to a place where we have the common language, we share the same values, we share the same messaging around what we're trying to accomplish in this industry. And if we can align in that during that education process, getting the feedback from those partners to say, that's not going to work with my clients, and if you did it this way, it would work. Having that feedback loop is critical so that we can adjust as well. But really, it comes back to just such a synergistic operational side. When we're all happy and headed in the same direction, we're all super happy. So
yeah, I agree, and it's a big mission. I mean, my mission isn't about me. It's not about how much money I can make. It's just not about me, right? The mission is about us. It's about this industry and everybody who's affected by it. And I think the more you can teach, the more you can empower, the more you can benefit, personally with a career, maybe a new career. What I don't want you to, I think part of the education motivation too is to stop you from doing it wrong. Because this is, and I've said it a million times, this is not a product industry. This is a service industry that's dominated by products. Totally different, right? So, because people are the biggest risk, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones who cause most of the issues. And it's not the end user clicking on buttons that I'm talking about. It's the developers developing crappy code. You know, why do I have to patch all the time? If you didn't have bugs, you probably wouldn't have to patch all the time. You know, I mean, you're not patching for new features. Those are called
Yeah.
upgrades.
Right.
And so, you know, it's us corporately as people, we have to do better than this. We will pay the price. And so I think, you know, giving it your all, trying to empower people, you know, to consult other people well,
Yeah.
and then also being open to criticism, because I don't have all the answers. We already talked about that. And so if I'm
Right.
teaching this way, and you're like, yeah, but that doesn't work, being open to
Yeah.
that criticism. You're not attacking me personally, you're attacking the way I'm doing something, right? And
Right.
so being open, you know,
Well, you
because
know,
I've
you're
benefited tremendously from this industry. I live in Mexico. I live in this. I don't want any more damn money. I want other people to benefit, right? By doing good
Yep.
security. So if you can live out a good example that you can do security correctly and make money, they're not mutually exclusive. But the thing is, if you focus on the mission, you'll make money. If you focus on the money, you won't make the mission. So totally different. So going out there and selling people products that they don't need, going out there and giving them crappy advice because you were afraid to say that you didn't know the answer, things like that, you know, oftentimes that's putting money or ego ahead of the mission, and people suffer for it.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's great. And, you know, and I think it all goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is standardizing the way that all of these things
Right.
are done. Because if there's no standardization around the services that VCSOs or MSPs or anybody provides, then you're just kind of, everybody's doing something differently, right? Which doesn't serve anyone at the end of the
There's a
day.
good question, another good question. Look at that
Yeah.
marketing thing.
Do we have a question? Let's take a look at questions.
What does good marketing look like? Pretty pictures, colors.
Yeah, that makes
I would
sense.
say if you were following LinkedIn, I would say not empty Bose headphone cases.
Oh God.
All right,
that's
guys, move.
But that's the thing.
Move.
But that's the thing. If you had a product that was actually as good as a lot of these people say
Right.
it is, they
Right.
would be rushing down your door to come buy
Yeah.
it from you. But the thing is, you don't have that product. You may say you do, but again, anybody with discernment knows well enough that you don't. And so I think what good marketing is it's honest, it's transparent. And in all of that, what's in it for me as a buyer?
Right.
How would I benefit from this? How would I benefit from your service? How would I benefit from your product? And don't make up some bullshit, like truly. And I can hold you
Right.
accountable to that. That would be
Right.
good marketing, because then I would buy it and I'd be like, oh my God, everything you said,
Yeah.
you did.
Right.
And I'm gonna go tell the masses about this.
That actually leads us into our next conversation point, which is, you know, there's all these vendors out there that are jumping on the cybersecurity bandwagon. You know, they're all talking, but it feels like there's a lot of misinformation going on out there. How do MSPs know what to believe? I mean, what would you guys say? How do they know?
I love that first question. I think it's tied to that first question that Jason posed, you know, in the chat.
Yeah.
Understanding the basics of what information security actually is,
Mhm.
right? That's what keeps you safe from buying the crap. You know, because if you think about it, like, would I rather I'd rather not spend $1 on information security than misspend $1 on information security. Because at least one, I'm not ignorant enough to believe that I'm actually protecting myself. I'm not
Yeah.
living in a false sense of security, and I didn't piss away that $1.
Right.
So what are the fundamentals of information security? One, understand what the name of the game is. It's risk management. Risk management, not risk elimination. Impossible. So anybody who ever tells you that they can end cyber risk, it's bullshit. You can't. Right? So it's risk management. Well, what would I need to do in order to manage risk? One, I would need to understand it. I would need to diagnose it, right? Like I take a car to an auto mechanic. They run diagnostics before they start pulling out the wrenches and tearing your car apart. The same thing with information security. So before I'm going to manage something, I have to understand it. So that would require a risk assessment. right? And so risk, we overuse that word a lot. It's likelihood of something
Mhm.
bad happening and the impact if it did. It's not vulnerabilities, that's different. It's not threats, that's different. It's when a threat compromises a vulnerability, that's when you have a risk. So I think understanding those basics, and then if you did a good risk assessment, I think then you build a roadmap. You did, because part of the management is assessing it, then making decisions. What are we
Yeah.
going to do?
Yeah.
There are these 10
Yeah.
risks that are unacceptable. They're just too much for us.
Right.
Let's do something about them, and then that will lead to your budget. So it's all tied in nicely together, but it's all work. You know, it's simple, and people get confused that simple must mean easy. No, different things.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how you do it.
Well, I know we're at our 45 minutes here, guys, and I do you guys have a little extra time we can spend here? If
Yeah,
those of you on the
cutting
call
into
here,
drone flying time, but whatever.
right? If
Ooh.
those of you on the call here can stay a few more, we have a few more questions we can go through, and of course, I'd like to get through your questions as well. But all of this subject, you know, that we're talking about really, you know, speaks to this mindset or idea of guarantees. And I've heard this from a number of cybersecurity companies out there, vendors touting 100% ransomware protection, or, you know, something of this nature. I mean, is
CrowdStrike.
that even
I said a word.
possible? I mean, I can't see how it would be.
Are they watching? Is CrowdStrike
No,
watching
yeah,
right now?
yeah. 100% of the time, nobody's 100%. That's all you got to think
Yeah.
about. Nobody's 100%. It's all a bunch of, and that it goes back to your previous question around, you know, how do you wade through this noise?
Yeah.
And you know, it's, don't trust vendors who say shit like that. I mean, because and to Evan's point about risk assessment of like, there's nobody's 100%. It's just not. It's not possible. I mean, there's just no way. And
Well, and if that's what your goal is, if you're actually driving towards that, you're going to fail, and you're going to
yes,
be disappointed. So you're just
yes,
setting yourself up for failure right out of the gate.
right,
It's the goal isn't even to prevent all breaches.
correct.
That's not the goal. You can't do it. Nobody can do it.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
No,
AI, nothing. It's impossible. We've seen it forever, right? So take it from somebody who's
Yep.
been in this industry and seen this same crap recycle over and over again.
oh yeah, yeah,
So if I know I can't prevent all bad things from happening, then I should have something in place to detect it and then respond to it.
correct.
This is all very logical business.
Mitigate. Yep.
And you know, so and if you don't have expertise in those areas, then find somebody that you can trust who does have expertise. Somebody who's not going, like if you said to me, like I've heard like invisible processes. You know, I was in a meeting and I was asking them, oh, this is a really cool technology. Can you tell me how it actually works? And they said, well, you know, it went on to something. I'm like, okay, I'm still not getting that. Explain to that more. Well, it's invisible processes. I'm like, what? There's no such thing as an invisible process.
What about protecting unknown threats?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, unknown.
I don't know how you do it, but
Yeah, interesting. No, I mean that all makes sense, guys, and you know, it's more of that's how you weed out the you
Yes.
know
Yep.
those folks, and you know who you can trust if they're saying things or creating guarantees. It's just not correct.
well, and
Um,
in this industry, as a rule of thumb, I would never buy anything from anybody who told me that I needed to have it.
Right.
Meaning, if it was a salesperson, right? I should already know. Like it's the same thing
Right.
like at my house, right? So take this, because it used to be two different things, right? Cybersecurity or information security and life, right? They were separate from each other. Like I wasn't online until I booted up my modem and connected to AOL. So
Right.
they were separate things, but they're not separate anymore. There's an intersection between everything I do in daily life and everything I do cyber. I mean, you can't separate them anymore. So the same risks, the same concepts of risk apply, right? So if you were going to guarantee me that I'm never going to get hacked, can you guarantee me that I will never get in a car accident? Can you guarantee me that I'll never trip going down the stairs? Can you guarantee me that I'll never have a heart attack? Can you guarantee me I'll ever have any of these things? No, you can't. because that's life, right? So what we do is we do things to manage that, right? I manage the risk of me having a heart attack by maybe not smoking, watching my weight, getting exercise, if that risk is important enough to me, right? And the same thing with cyber. There's some risks that maybe just aren't important enough to you. But what's not acceptable and it's not defensible is to be ignorant, to just not know, not care, play my, like play, you'd have better chances at MGM where they lost your information.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's great. I wanted to get one more question out before we kind of get to the Q&A here. And, that's if you two were MSPs today, handling networks for small businesses, what would you be focused on doing in your business in 2024? Like how to help these guys and what would be those next steps for you? Any thoughts?
Security assessment. I would go and sit down with every single one of the clients and walk them through a security assessment first and foremost, and then take that back, because then that enables me to understand the gaps that I'm not providing them. It understands the gaps of what tools or solutions that I need to look at as an MSP to bring in to provide them. But sitting on this, I would sit down and do an S2 assessment with each one of these clients, and then identify, like what you just said, Evan, where's the risk, and then what weight do we put against that risk, and then build a plan together, partner with that business, and build a plan together to get the remediation done.
Yeah. Yeah, I think absolutely. And not missing out, like, and I'm learning all the time, 30 some odd years, and I'm still like, because I was stuck on this thing. I was with a bunch of CIOs at a roundtable, and they kept talking about speaking the language of business, speak the language of business, speak the language of business. And I was on this roundtable, and I was the only security guy there. And they asked me, and I wasn't saying anything. I was just listening. And then they noticed I didn't say anything. And they're like, Evan, what do you think? And I didn't think before I said what I said. None of you speak the language of business. And they're like, what? And they were just blown away. I'm like, yeah, because all I hear is like, it's so hard to keep up with the unrealistic technology demands of the business. It's, we've got all these assets. We don't have enough staff. We don't have enough budget. And I'm like, none of that speaks to me like you speak the language of business.
No.
So then this was the learning thing. Cause then I thought about us, I thought about information security people, and do I speak the language of business? I mean, I'm not going to beat these guys up, and I'm not doing it. So I did research on what the language of business is. And the language of business, according to, what's his name? Who's the guy from Omaha?
Oh,
Buffett.
Warren.
Buffett.
Warren.
Because he knows a lot about business. You know what I mean?
Bit.
He said the language of business, and this is a quote, is accounting. I was like, son of a bitch. All right, that makes sense. So as an MSP, if I were starting an MSP today, or I was providing consulting services for a small to mid-sized business, I would approach it as, how can I provide value to your business and make you more money?
Right.
Either top line, so a competitive advantage in the marketplace, depending on what market we're operating in. Some places touting security get you business, right? Or get you through the third-party vetting process faster,
Right.
whatever. On the bottom line, if I know complexity is the worst enemy of security, I'm looking for every opportunity possible to simplify this crap. So if I walk into a small to mid-sized business and I would do an asset inventory. What stuff do we have here right now that we don't need? We're not using anymore. Legacy hardware, software that we're paying for that we're not using. Because from a risk management perspective, I just reduced risk quite a bit, because those are things I don't have to configure anymore. I don't have to secure them anymore. I don't have to worry about passwords. They're gone. From a business perspective, at the same time, this is the alignment that I'm talking about. At the same time, I just saved my small to mid-sized business a couple $100,000, which by the way, totally paid for all the risk stuff that we did. So I think always looking for opportunities to show how you provide value to them. I'm going to get paid either way. If I don't provide value, I hope you'd fire me.
Right. No, we call that profit bleed.
reducing profit bleed.
Yeah, yeah, good. That's a great,
Yeah.
I've never heard that term, but I like that.
Yeah, great points, guys. So I want to jump into some of the questions here. I know we only have about 5 minutes till the top of the hour, so we'll try to go through these quickly. I'm not sure that you guys can recommend any tools or software. Someone asked if there were any tracking vulnerability tools that you guys would recommend for smaller organizations. Anything that you guys?
It's not going to come down to it's not going to come down to your choice of tool. It's going to come down to how you use it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so there's a ton
How
of
you
them out
how you
there.
address how you
That's
address
almost
it.
a commodity now in our industry. So you've got, Nessus, Qualys, Rapid7. I mean, there are a number of
You got open
players.
source. You got open
Yeah.
source ones too that you can set up yourself for free. Yeah.
So going down that route, whatever tools you're researching, just learn how to use them right.
Okay. Let's see here. What do you guys think good cyber marketing looks like? Any messaging that you've found that resonated with customers and is honest? So marketing for them to their potential customers, anything that comes to mind that might
It starts
resonate?
with the beard.
Good. You need a beard. Everybody needs a
You need
beard.
beer. No, you don't need a beer. I
That's
think
there.
it's that authenticity, right?
Yep.
Not we talked about it not having 100% or not having
No guarantee.
the finite. We do, it's the messaging that comes across is we want to partner. We want to. How do we help you?
And I don't think marketing fear is the way to do it either. That's just
Correct.
something that.
Well,
shouldn't
they had a
happen.
saying, they have a saying at FR Secure that they've used for years that if you see Evan panic, it's time to panic. So, I mean, that means that there's a time for fear. There's a time to
Right.
be afraid. But, you got to be really careful on when you play that card, man, because we got taught, that's the crazy thing about this industry too. We were taught this stuff as like little kids, in nursery rhymes. Remember the boy who cried wolf?
Mm-hmm.
I was already taught this. So, are these boys who are crying wolves or men? I guess, I don't know what gender we're talking, but are we people that are crying wolf to sell you something? And there's no justification for it. So, continue to ask the questions.
No, very good. This was just a statement. So you hit a great point, Evan. Linking the business need to a personal benefit creates buy-in. We've seen this in implementing good cyber practices and linking them to employees' personal online shopping, banking activities such as that. So that was a great point from Matt. We had an anonymous attendee let us know that Kennedy's beard routine is more intense than his hair care routine. So that's always
It's called
great.
laziness.
It's looking good.
Somebody said the box with lots of exclamation marks. So. And then we have from Carrie, absolutely risk management, but what about people management? Get it, people are a risk, but any other thoughts on that? You guys can provide.
What comes down, I mean, we were taught this in college too. I don't know how many
Yeah.
people went to college, but psychology 101, right? They taught you, Pavlov, I think it was, how to motivate dogs, but people kind of. What's in it for them? What pain do they have if they don't do it? Right. So it comes down to the same thing. So put it into their language in ways that they can understand. And people are so unique that you can't just generalize, right? Because what works at FR Secure in my company or SecurityStudio, my company, may not work in your company. I don't know what motivates. I don't know what your culture is in your organization. So that's why CAN training and awareness program is really limited in its effectiveness. It has to be custom to the people that you're actually serving so that it resonates with them.
All right, perfect. And I think we hit on this. Lyle's had just talked about the 100% guarantees, and outside of that, if the market's flooded with that, how do we educate people on business and risk mitigation? Like if there's all these guarantees out there going on and people, marketing that way, how do you get
I guarantee that someday you will die.
Have them watch Tommy Boy, Callahan Auto Parts.
There you go.
Shit in a box and slap a 100% guarantee on it.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. I mean, that is you're just gonna have to combat it with reality, right? And that there just is no guarantee. But
You know, and it's okay. And I think the other thing too is we get this like we have to win the deal. We have to win the deal. We have to win the deal, and go through it. It's okay not to win the deal. It's okay that we're not like Evan said it a couple of times. It's okay that we're not a fit for your business. I don't know how many times I've told people that it's okay that we're not going to work for you. And 6 months later, we get a phone call. It's like, shit, we need you because the path we went didn't work out for us. And that's great. But you can't, we're not magicians. We don't have, that ability to change people's minds. We
right.
can only express and be authentic. And if they're not on board, okay, it's okay.
Yeah, there's
Gotcha.
plenty of others that do want to get on board. I've done the same thing
Yeah.
with executive management that just, they don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. You try all the different angles, try to figure out all the different ways, and they still don't care. Rather than me continuing to waste my time here and
Right.
maybe get it over this hump, screw it. I'll go work for other places where they actually have good management.
Yeah.
Right.
So we are at the top of the hour, guys. There's one last question here that I'd love to hit, and then we'll get our ending going here. But Jason asked, other than FR Secure, CISSP mentor program blogs, and Ostra.net blogs, are there any publications, websites, organizations that are better than others for staying up to date on cybersecurity news and events? Do you guys have any recommendations where these guys can go to check out stuff?
I can tell you what I do. I actually don't go to any news source. I create Google search alerts. So there's certain things that I'm interested in hearing about on a regular basis. And so with Google, you can, set up certain search criteria and then have it email you digests of those things. So I get sources, like if I'm interested in, counties that have been hacked, I'll do a search with county breach date, whatever my search criteria are. And then I'll get updated on those, because then I can read it without somebody's interpretation of what it is.
Right.
That's
Any thoughts?
I use an app, Flipboard, and I configure it the same way that Evan talks about. I have different parameters in there for security related, industry related, just world events type stuff, and then I go through and read myself. I mean, there are a lot of good organizations and a lot of really good people out there that publish podcasts that talk industry related stuff. That I read through that stuff as it comes in too. But I do the same thing, customize.
And certainly what my friends are doing. I mean, people that I really respect in this industry. So, and I'm not pitching it. I think it's good. Like Hacklebox. My good friend, Oscar, leads that, and I always want to kind of keep up to date on what he's up to and what he's doing. So that's a good point. Mike, those podcasts, as you make friends, in this industry, follow your friends, see what they're up to.
Awesome. Well, guys, this has been super informative. We're planning to do, a series of these over time. So I think that would be great. At the end of this, you guys, they're listening, we'll have a survey. Just like to know what, it's 2 questions, I think, or something. So let us know what you thought of it, and anything that you want to see in the future talked about. So feel free to fill that out for us at the end. Any final thoughts? Kennedy, I'll start with you. Any final thoughts?
I'm not sitting in front of a fireplace next time. It's too hot.
Too hot. You're sitting there dying.
We got to do one in Mexico, sitting around a bonfire together.
Yeah, come hang out with me, man. Yeah, I think, start with protecting what's most important to you. Start with protecting yourself and your family. We talk about business a lot, but at the end of the day, what are your kids doing? Because I can recover from, if you hacked my bank accounts, which has happened many, many times because it's just nature of the beast, I can recover from that. What I can't recover from is you stealing one of my children's innocence.
Yeah.
I can't recover from that stuff. So start there, start with personalizing this, get your family secure, and you'll be amazed at how much you learn from doing that you can then take to your work. So it's the same with like when people ask me, how do I get into, pen testing? And I'm like, hack yourself.
Right.
What do you
Yeah.
mean? Like hack your house. Like and the
Right.
normal, American house has like 12, 13, 14 devices connected to the network.
Right.
Hack all that crap.
Yeah.
You're not going to go to jail for that, and you'll
No.
learn so much. So the same thing, make this personal,
Right.
protect your family, protect yourself, and see where things go from there.
Yeah, I make my kids read data privacy policies.
Yeah, it's torture.
They want to install
Bedtime stories, yeah.
Snapchat on their thing. Okay, read the policy
love
and tell me where your data is going, and then you can have it.
Right.
So
Nice.
and
That's
they
awesome.
yep
That's borderline torture a little bit.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
close.
But they
Yeah.
need to know that.
They do.
I
You're
want them
right.
to have that thinking process.
Right.
So
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
just
that's a
sign
good
and
point,
click on
man.
everything.
right.
Oh, great stuff, guys. This has been super informative and awesome. Really appreciate your time from both of you, and I think that we've learned a lot today. We went a little over, but most people have stayed with us, so that's fantastic. If you guys want to learn a little bit more, this was not about, our solutions or anything like that, but if you'd like to learn more about ostra.net, feel free to jump over there and check those guys out. If you'd like to learn more about Security Studios, just securitystudio.com, check us out. And thanks everyone for joining us today. It's been a great fireside chat, getting Kennedy all warmed up there.
Okay, thank you.
Have a Merry Christmas, guys.
Take
Merry
care,
Christmas.
guys.
Happy
Have a
holidays.
great-
See ya.
Thanks so much. Bye now.
Yep.